Welcome back to Rapid7 in 7, where we're discussing the relationship between people, process, and technology and how they have an impact on mitigating risk within the cybersecurity environment. I'm your host, Shilan Aliali, and I'm here with my colleague, David Brooks-Smith. DBS, hello. Thank you for once again joining me today. In the last episode, we talked a little bit about security teams and their challenges when it comes to defining their roles and responsibilities. But today we're going to talk about standards and compliance, so looking at regulatory frameworks and best practices that teams might want to take into consideration. Starting off from a kind of basic level then, DBS, what's the key difference between being simply compliant and being truly secure?
Basic question with probably an impossible to answer, but
I believe in you.
Yeah, I think we just have to take it as read that we need more measurements in place on environments aside from whether we are compliant, because any security professional will tell you that there is a big gulf between being compliant and being secure. Like if we think about a Venn diagram, there will absolutely be overlap, and a lot of the things which you need to do to be compliant, things like putting processes in place, like understanding vulnerabilities, understanding patch levels, these are like key parts of a lot of compliance frameworks and requirements. However, I think that we need to understand when things are on fire as well, and this could be like a combination of facets, I suppose, of a system or an environment that actually might not be neatly captured by regulatory compliance standards, and so we need to be able to understand and quantify like the combinations of things which are happening within our environments. And so I think that like they're both really, really important, and they will both create work slightly differently. The compliance, moving towards a compliance state is going to be a little bit more proactive, and then maybe like looking at the things which are really like dangerous combinations in our environment might be a little bit more reactive, and so we might need more automated process to integrate into other workflows or other teams.
So expanding a little bit on that, on your point about the Venn diagram and how there is overlap, but what are some of from your perspective, and what are some of the challenges that security teams face when balancing that, regulatory standards versus the practical security needs?
Well, we can almost think about it as like how an organization generates revenue or makes money. Things like supply chain compliance have become much more prevalent. Gartner will talk about selling your products or services with your security posture as a key selling point. We take this really, really seriously, and so you can trust us with your business essentially. And then so you can kind of like be proactive with these things in order to almost like help the business generate revenue, really. But then secondarily, if we don't think about the stuff which might be on fire in our environment, so like, yes, it's amazing, we're compliant with NIST, we build in accordance with CIS, we follow AI development best practices as something a little bit more cutting edge. But actually then if you have to go back to those same people and say, well, we've been breached, this can also be a massive disruptor of business, destroy your reputation and be incredibly damaging for brands, or in attacks or breaches of things like crypto mining or ransomware, they could have like a primary financial impact. In crypto mining, you see that in your bill at the end of the month from your CSP, and ransomware, you potentially pay an extortion fee to release your data. So like there's a lot of actual really valid business and financial reasons to be thinking about both of these things. And I think that when security are able to speak and quantify in terms of the business, this is like a massive help or a remover of friction between teams that are going to have to do some proactive work in working on their compliance, and keep if it's regulatory compliance, keep those regulators and governing bodies happy and appraised of what they're doing. And then secondarily, like it's you've got to be reactive to stuff again, which I use this term of on fire, that has the ability to get you pwned, basically.
So nobody wants to be in this situation, but what is your advice when something does go wrong, right? When the teams are putting out those fires, in terms of risk, what is your advice to give to those situations?
Make it the rule, not the exception. So like work really hard to integrate and make it very, very easy for the teams that have to react to these incidents. And like we'll use just as kind of a byword for this kind of issue, like an exposed storage container within cloud that has some sensitive data in it. We can kind of use that as our example. It's very, very usual for teams to be deploying these and tearing them down and modifying infrastructure and changing things. And so they've got a cloud or DevOps teams have got a set of tools and processes and expertise ultimately in being agile in creating and modifying infrastructure. So make sure that when there is this alert of something which is on fire, like put it into that process, make sure there's integration into their ticketing systems, into their workflow, into, let's quantify it in terms of technical debt, which has been introduced during that last sprint. But I think it's incumbent on the team of security and DevOps or application owners to make that firefighting process part of BAU, of just how we manage the environment. And we spoke about this before. There's been this kind of creation of DevOps, which isn't really a creation; it's more of a mashup of development and operations. So just make the security or the responding to high risk assets, systems, identities, whatever it may be, completely brought into that BAU process. So it's very much, this is about the people that are going to be responsible and integrating that process and making the fix very much part of the stuff that you're drilled on. So
have your pre-established process, make sure the roles needed are aware of what they need to do and follow that process.
Integrate into the workflow. It's incumbent on security to be integrated into that workflow of these people are experts in doing this. And so it should be within that process.
And that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us for the next one, where we'll be talking about observability and how to interpret and respond to data within your environments.